What's up, Juventini? Alberto here, and I've got all your Juventus news. The Fagioli penalty is set to be accepted within the next couple of days. We'll take a look at the details, but is history going to repeat itself in terms of penalties and Juventus? We're going to take a look at that one, so stick around to the end for that. Samardzic, finally, we have a big gun linking us to this midfielder. We'll take a look at the details there. Is he going to be the one for Juve in the winter mercato? Injury status report on Danilo, Chiesa, and Vlahovic, and the Chiesa and Vlahovic updates are changing daily, but the Chiesa one has the Chihuahuas out there yipping, so I might have to shut some people up today. And then my Conte theory, well, it keeps going. I dropped my theory about a week ago, and we're going to take a look at it and keep tabs on, is Alberto crazy or is something going on there? Like the video, subscribe to the channel, share the content if you enjoy it. This is the AJC. Let's rock. Okay, so first off, my sources in Turin told me 2 days ago that what we're hearing as far as all these names, as I was trying to pinpoint which ones are actually solid, and he says, look, the way things stand financially, what you're hearing and all these names are probably actually true and realistic. In terms of Juve and where they sit financially, they are going to take a look at all avenues and all options available to them. Okay, so I'm going to start things off with that. Now, as far as the report surfacing today, the idea of Bernardeschi returning very much does exist. Okay, it's also said that Allegri appreciates the player's versatility. However, there are no talks between Juventus and Toronto FC at the moment. Okay, but as far as it being a realistic option in January, it very much is a realistic option based on where Bernardeschi stands right now at TFC. But the wages, they don't really make sense. So that part of it isn't realistic. Something would have to happen there. We've also heard rumors about Jadon Sancho, and man, you would have to pick up the wages, at least half of them. Well, that would probably be the same scenario with Federico Bernardeschi, okay? As far as Højbjerg, Kone, Fofana, and Diarra go, they are starting to be tipped off as not realistic for January, as they seem very, very difficult maneuvers to try and pull any of these players in the January mercado. I personally also believe that Nice will not release Thuram in the January window, but the summer, but we'll have to see on that one. Now, yesterday I was asked this question on one of our other platforms. It said, Alberto, who do you think is the midfielder Juventus is going to bring in? If Skira says 100%, who do you think that midfielder is going to be if you had to guess? And I said, well, for me, if I had to guess, looking at all the options and what I think is actually realistic for January, I threw out two names, Sudakov and Samardzic. And I know that there wasn't heavy links with Samardzic, but boom, an hour and a half later from me answering that question, Nico Skira comes in, and he's finally one of the big three that links us to Samardzic, saying that Juventus is definitely monitoring the Udinese midfielder, all right? And he continues that Giuntoli was monitoring him at Napoli, and he appreciates the player. Not only that, if a loan with the right to redemption is an option like it was for Inter, makes a lot of sense for Juventus as well. Furthermore, 425,000 euros a season is his salary. Juventus can triple that, and it won't even phase us. All right, so this one makes a lot of sense. And finally, we have a big gun linked to us. And honestly, if we look at characteristics, traits, abilities, he makes a ton of sense for all the reasons. He literally checks all the boxes. Is Samardzic going to be the one? If you had to guess on the addition in the midfield that it's going to be, I want to know who you think. Do you think it's going to be Samardzic? Do you think it's going to be one of the other targets? Let me know who you think it's going to be. All right. Now we get to our injury status report. Danilo is going to be out for 20 days. That puts him right around the November 11th match against Cagliari, unless obviously he can gain some time in terms of recovery. But if he cannot make that November 11th match, then we have an international break, which means he could potentially be out until November 26th, that home game against Inter Merda. All right, so we'll have to keep tabs on Danilo. Now, as far as Chiesa goes, there is optimism that Chiesa is going to be able to make it in for this Milan match. Apparently, there is no longer pains that he is feeling, and we'll know more in the coming days. Now, this has fans of the Azzurri fired up, okay? And I see the posts all over social media. If you don't want to play for the Azzurri, simply say so. Stop wasting everybody's time. They're getting a little pissy, these Chihuahuas. All right, well, listen here, all right? When we get the Juventus players, and we know that the Azzurri, they live and die by the Juventus presence, all right? Now, as far as this, now all of a sudden he's a problem. Now all of a sudden you don't want him. The reason you're complaining is because of the fear, and you know that you need this guy, all right? But you always got to make it about Juventus, and now all of a sudden you're coming at Chiesa because maybe, just maybe, he might be playing games with the Azzurri. And you know what? The FIGC would deserve nothing more. You want to laugh when they target us. You want to make all your comments, your jokes, your memes when the FIGC doesn't treat all the clubs equal in terms of penalization. And then you want to complain if, hypothetically, a player was playing games with the FIGC and the Azzurri, a player from that club. I would actually laugh if Federico Chiesa was doing that. And I, support the Azzurri, but it's hard to support, a group that continues to fire away at your club and target them and witch hunts and everything. So, you know what? If Chiesa was doing that, hey, you brought it on yourself, FIGC. But I don't think that's the case. And I don't think Federico Chiesa would do it. But for the Chihuahuas out there, shut the hell up, all right? You need this kid. You need him. Now, as far as Vlahovic goes, he should be fit for the Milan game. So again, contrast in news from yesterday when Samardzic was saying they're both doubts, not looking to make in there. Now today we hear they should be fit for the game. Fingers crossed, we'll know more and obviously have eyes on these two leading up to that game. Fagioli, 7 to 8 month ban. It's said to be 7 months, November 1st to June 1st. That ends the 23-24 season for Fagioli. If anything should come outside of that from Juventus or whatnot, we'll have to wait and see. I actually don't think so. I think Juventus is going to keep him around and everything, and we'll move forward. But there are some growing theories coming out around here, and we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, the now made infamous audio clips of Corona having a discussion and naming all those other players from all those other teams. We start to wait and we're wondering what's going on with these other players. Now Tonali and Zaniolo had to leave the Azzurri camp and everything, and now it's starting to get quiet around them, and they were just betting on poker, etc. and whatnot, while Fagioli's getting this ban. Nobody else is really being investigated or questioned, regardless of this audio clip that came out from Corona, who's actually testifying to the prosecution in this case. So some theories and concerns are starting to come around that history may repeat itself, and Fagioli's going to set to take this penalty of 7-month ban in the next day or two. And is anything going to happen with anybody else? We have to wait and see. I would not be surprised if the prosecutor, Cine, just simply stops or says, there's not enough against all these other guys. We'll have to wait and see, but I hope they keep it constant. I hope they keep it going, because there's a lot of names out there being named, around 40, and not just players, but team reps as well and officials. So I would hope it doesn't end there. But again, we will know very, very soon if history is set to repeat itself and Juve is penalized and everybody else gets the old slap on the wrist. All right. And then I'm definitely going to react to that one. Okay. Now, to wrap things up, my Conte theory that I dropped about a week ago, I'm saying he's waiting for Juventus. Well, yesterday talks about his biggest regret, and his biggest regret was leaving Juventus, the way that all went down. But hey, there's still, and now more and more sources out there are jumping and saying that do not rule out a return of Antonio Conte. The latest coming from Guido Vaziago from Tuttosport, who is actually, despite working for Tuttosport, very reliable and very, very solid and thorough in his information. But he says do not rule it out. The relationship is good and strong between Juventus, and no more Andrea Agnelli there, and he is very close to Calvo and Giuntoli. Now the only thing is, he did also say recently, very recently, that he would be interested in a job at Napoli or Roma one day, but he always prefers starting in the summer. Hey, we'll see what happens, but my theory is he is waiting for the Juventus bench. But we'll find out if Berto's theory is just one of those crazy ones or if there's some weight there. But every day it seems to pick up a little bit more of a power up. We'll see what happens. That wraps up your news break to today. Juventini, you guys know the drill. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, please share the content. All right. But let me know what you think. Who do you think is the most realistic target? Who do you expect to be the one that we bring into the midfield in the winter mercado? And what do you think about these Chihuahuas yipping about our Federico Chiesa? Shut that down and give him the big day, all right? Until tomorrow's episode, as always, no matter what, fino alla fine, forza Juve, ciao tutti.